Evening, everybody. My name's Patrick, and I am an alcoholic. I live in Savannah, Georgia. We call it the armpit of the Americas. But there are somehow we're blessed with about 6 or 7 people who attend this meeting regularly from this area in Savannah. You'll see them on here some. It's always a joy. I've seen a couple of them at my home group meeting, and that's pretty cool. Um, I It's always an honor to be asked to speak. Uh, and not only that, it's a duty. You know, we read Dr. Bob's story the other day, and he says the 3 things why he keeps sticking around this thing. And one of them is to give back to what was so freely given to me and what was here when I got here. And that was a bunch of people speaking and a bunch of people attending meetings regularly. And it was always a beam, you know, a light at the end of the tunnel, a moral compass for me to come to meetings. And you know, they might have been old and shit, but you know, some of them had 50 years. Met a guy, shook the guy's hand at 55 years, who shook the hand of Bill Wilson. So I get to walk around and say that I shook the hand that shook the hand that shook the hand. And you know, it's those kind of people that keep me coming back. um, Here's a little calculus for you, if I can say it right. I've got 114. I started coming around here in 1987. I was fortunate to have been part of a bid committee for Atlanta that started in, I think it was 1989 or something like that. I eventually got the bid, and the convention was in 90 or 91, I believe it was. I think it was the 21st or something like that. But anyway, I was part of the cover art for the big committee. So there's actually some part of that cover. I have it somewhere. I might put it up later, where I could point to it and say, well, that was my contribution. So Icky Pa goes back a long ways, and I was a member of Icky Pa back in the days. But you know, these days I got to get in here and say, hey, I'm young at heart. You know, I still have room to grow because I'm a little older than most people that come here. But I come because there were dudes in Icky Pa when I came that were older than I was, and it was good to see them coming. It gave me again a moral compass and a thing to steer for in AA. So here's the calculus. I've got one 14-year chip. I've got 2 7-year chips. I've got 3 6-month chips, and God willing, on the 17th of this month, I'll have 4 9-month chips. And so that's cool. I had relapse after 14 years recently in February, and I went off the rails on some opioids, and I'll try to touch on that without going too far over. So again, I want to speak to service kind of at this speak. Service, many of you might have seen the triangle and the circle that's on our Tech Host's screen right now. And if you buzz in on it a little closer, the 3 things that surround the triangle are unity, service, and recovery. Service being one of the 3 main things that keeps you going. And you know, like I said, we read Dr. Bob's story the other day. At the end of his story, he says, at his first international, he was about to die. It was his last few months of life. He got up there and spoke, and he says this program boils down to 2 words. It says service and love. And love is an easy one to see. And if you stick around, you see people reaching out in lots of ways, showing love to each other in these rooms. I've seen it here a lot. One of the coolest things I like to see are random acts of kindness, which is another form of service work. That comes out a lot. That, you know, service is a vital part, and I, you know, you'll also hear a lot of people that do the service work, because there's all kinds of service work. There's in committee work, there's coming in and reading and leading meetings and chairing meetings. I chair Monday nights here on 5D, and I can't thank the members of this group for allowing me to do that. I think they were hesitant at first, but so far it's been really a great thing for me, and I've enjoyed it significantly. But it's just a vital part of service. And you'll hear people complain that 5% of the people do 90% of the service work. The reason I kind of bring it up is to encourage you, if you want to ensure your sobriety and give some life to your sobriety, do any kind of service work. I mean, it starts out as a greeter, and that's the kind of way I started. I actually cleaned ashtrays at my first meetings, so I could tell how far back my ancient shit goes. But it's been the line in the big book says, if you do intensive work with another alcoholic, will ensure your sobriety. And that's just another way to do intensive work. And Bill Wilson talks about in his story about bringing people into his house. A gentleman committed suicide in one of his rooms. I always dreamed I would get a little extra room somewhere and have it around in case I can put up a sober person one day. I've done some things in my time that where I didn't really regret it, but I went, like I had a dude that took my bike and wrecked it and lost some money and things trying to help people out. And those are all things that are okay. It's kind of a little outside of what sponsorship and service work calls for. But, the big book also speaks to that too. And sometimes we will go that far. So anyway, like I said, I came around in '87. I grew up, but I was a doctor's son. I had a great childhood. I did, I got to do all the things a kid does, including taking off grew up in the 70s. So I did all kinds of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I ran away when I was 16 years old from home. And that was after being a lead singer in a band for a while, which was really cool. So I did have, you hear people talk about having that feeling of not belonging or being a part of when they were young. I had that. And even though I got a gig singing as a front man in a band, and there are all kinds of benefits that come from that, I still had that hole in the middle that I ran around trying to fill, feeling like I was alone and separate from everybody else. And it ended up being, I didn't really realize it until I got sober and starting to figure all this stuff out, that was one of the reasons I chased like a madman all the crazy shit I could do when I was young, which was mostly rock and roll and drugs. And when all the shows that we all hear about going to, one of the best shows that I went to was I saw the Who with the drummer that was still with them, Keith Moon, and don't remember coming home from it. There are all kinds of stories I can tell you that qualify me as drunk. I've wrecked 3 or 4 cars. I should be a dead man, especially this last time in February. There were the last 2 nights of my using where I took so much, but I had a prescription of Percocets that I've been doing for a couple of years, but I busted up my hip in January and it ended up going to the street to pick up, the Oxy 30s that were on the street. And we all know that those things are pure fentanyl for the most part. And there's no telling how many milligrams I was doing. The last couple of nights, I was doing 10 or 15 of them and looking at my bed going, I can't go to bed. If I go to bed, I may not wake up. I've raised the white flag to my sister on the second day and was really fortunate. I never forget going to the first detox place I went to, and someone brought up the line that I'd heard from my father when I was a kid, and they said, you woke up on the right side of the dirt this morning. And I broke out in tears because it was so freaking true. I should have been dead. I went to bed that night. I should not have woken up, but I did. And I'm here, and I'm here to I've been given really a 4th chance. It's a 3rd chance big time, but a 4th chance to get this right again and continue to be a useful, productive member of society, which the big book talks about. So like I said, I had a great childhood and raised hell. The main thing is that, talks about in the big book about being a tornado running through people's lives. I was worse than that. I just didn't give a shit. I didn't give a fuck what anybody thought. I just got as fucked up as I wanted to anytime I wanted to. And the consequences I usually suffered seemed to be okay. The 3 times that I ever came back into AA were usually because I got cuffed and thrown in the back seat of a cop car. Nothing like a pair of handcuffs to make you willing to try to do this thing over again. I can remember it was in jail for about 7 days. In those first 3 days, they put you in lockdown in the jail. You hear the sound of the jail cell closing behind you, and you turn around to go get in your bunk. And after the second or third day, the bunk begins to smell like the alcohol coming out of your skin. It begins to seep back out of your body again. And suddenly you realize that I smelled like a gutter drunk. And I was a gutter drunk. When I got sober, and I'm kind of mixing them all together. There were 3 different times I got sober, but the second time I got sober in 2004, I had a son, but that time he was 3 years old, and my ex-wife had put a PFA, a protection order against me. I didn't see him for about 4 months, and I proceeded to say how unfair that was and how I didn't deserve that shit. I'll never forget calling my sister. And I had 3 great sisters that I loved to death. And I called her and was bitching to her and moaning about having this protection order against me. And she stopped me and she said to me, "You know what? You don't deserve to be his father." And I got so pissed. I was so offended by it. She could say that. How could she say that I don't deserve to be my own son's father? And I didn't talk to her for 2 fucking years. I was so pissed at her. Got sober and started to work these steps. And about 2 years later, long story short, I remember calling her back and telling her, "You were exactly right. You were exactly right. I did not deserve to be my son's father." So since that time, I was fortunate during that 14 years I was sober to raise him in sobriety from the time he was 3 till February, basically, or a couple of years ago. And it was really wasn't a slip, but it wasn't so bad that it didn't throw him off the rails. But he was raised in sobriety and raised well. His mom went AWOL, so it was just me and him. So I prepared a place for him. I worked my ass off. He had a bedroom. And for those of you who have kids, I did my best my mantra for him was, what you make a big deal is a big deal in his life. So what we made in sobriety the big deal for him was not that I went to meetings every night, and I took him to meetings. We were just going to the church to play. Not that I wasn't ashamed of everything, but what we made a big deal in his life was his life. We grew up, we went to school, we did homework, we had fun on Friday nights. We took his friends out to movies on Saturday nights. I could not have done any of that shit if I wasn't sober. If I'd been using and drinking what I've been doing on a Friday or a Saturday night, you think I would have been paying any fucking attention to my kid? I think not. So we had an awesome time. I ended up being my house, that he came over on Friday nights and having pizza with his friends and stuff. And they ended up having a group that they call themselves the Blue Bastards, and they're still friends. He's 21. He'll be 21 in December, and he's a honor student. He came to me the last year and said, "I don't want to do engineering, Dad." I said, "Come on, man, you got to do engineering." He said, "Dad, I want to do astrophysics." Threw me back on my ass. So my son is an honor student. He'll be a sophomore year next year, taking astrophysics in college. Can't believe it, but I do owe a lot of that shit. I don't know how much of it I owe to sobriety, but if I hadn't have had a place for him to grow up and do all that in sobriety, I don't know how it would have worked. So, sobriety had been very good to me. And I kicked it to the curb, man. I during that 14 years, it was like I had the wonderful little engine running, little Tecumseh engine all tuned up with the good gasoline in it. We were running real well. And during the last 3 or 4 years, things kind of got tough at home. The bills were hard to pay. He was going to college. Things were changing, and I didn't do it very well. I didn't take care of me. I stopped doing service work because I did a bunch of service work, and I did a bunch of stuff, and I stopped. The main thing that took me when I got sober in February, and it's still to this day, I'm not really sure when it was, but the one thing I was hard to put my finger on was when I stopped praying. I am not, I'm the perfect example of someone who did not want God. I'm not going to use the word God. I'm not even going to touch that shit. You can't tell me there is a God. If I was anything, I was an atheist. I called myself an agnostic. I did all the stuff through sobriety to try to figure out what the hell that's going on there. Because again, in Dr. Bob's story and a lot of places in the big book, it pretty much points to a lot of places that challenges you. It says in Dr. Bob's story, it says, if you as an atheist or agnostic, if you can't get this, I feel sorry for you, quote unquote, in Dr. Bob's story. And that one always kind of threw me for a loop because I didn't want to be one of those. I didn't want to be the person who failed at this. But I really believe that was where I lost it the most, was a conscious contact with a power greater than myself, able to give me a spiritual basis in this program significant enough to stay away from alcohol. And I know that sounds so freaking corny, and I would not have ever said that before, but I spent a lot of time trying to figure that shit out. And here's the thing that I came to and I'm still at today. Number one, the group is bigger than I am and is basically my power greater than myself. So I listen to the group and God speaks to me, and I call it God. I'll get to that in a second. My higher power speaks to me through the people in the group. I call it God because it takes me too long to try to explain to you what God means to me. It's been so much stuff and so many different things, and it's come to me in so many different ways. But the main thing is that my, kept waiting for the people tell you, and you'll hear it said, wait until the miracle happens. I kept waiting, what do they mean? What's the miracle? When's the miracle going to happen to me? I'm stick around till the miracle happens. And I kept wondering, and finally it kind of hit me, because I've been seeing it for a long time. People come into the rooms, and I go to brick and mortar meetings too, but it's happened here since I've been here in May. I've been coming to this meeting since May. People come in, they begin to, the light begins to come back to their eyes. They stick around for a couple of days. Things begin to get better. Sometimes it takes a little bit for some people to swallow some of it. Some people will bucket to no end, but there's something that attracts people and they keep coming back. And so day by day, does something stick and something sinks in, and you begin to see it in their eyes. You begin to see people get moon face. I'm an RN. People get moon face. The moon face goes away. The color comes back to their face. The sparkle comes back to their eyes, and they begin to see a purpose in life and begin to grab this thing, and they get to, people call it a pink cloud. Some people stay on a pink cloud. But the main thing is that's the miracle, to be here and to watch other people come in and get this, what you have. It's the main thing that I want to do, is take what I have inside my soul and take it out and give it to you. I can't just do that. I have to be here. I have to be an example. I have to walk the walk. I have to try to talk the talk, but the main thing is to walk the walk. And mostly that means to be here on a daily basis and to practice these principles in all my affairs. I use a lot of cliches here tonight, but that's because I only got 20 minutes. And I hope you'll go after and seek those cliches. There's some people I know that are here that I'm glad that they're here for days. There's some people that I only wish the best, that they will begin to at least, have an open mind. It's not that hard. I mean, it's not that it's hard. It's not that complicated. It's hard, but it's worth it. It's worth every fucking penny of it. And so, today, just since February, I mean, I blew out my hip in January. I had no clue what I was going to do anymore. I had to take a leave of absence. I'm an RN, so I was making some serious money. I don't know what's going to happen in the next couple months, but even if I lose it all, it's going to be all right. I got this crazy sense inside of me that it's going to be all right. I don't know how. I just know it is. And that's what I get from being here and what I've learned from all the shit that I've been through in sobriety. So, God willing, I'll be here next month on the 17th when I celebrate 9 months, and here in February when I celebrate a year, and long after that. And, I can only wish for all of you is that for those of you that are trying to figure out what the hell this is and what the hell you're doing here and this bullshit they want me to do like a higher power, I can only wish for you that you can get what I got And if there was any way that I could rip it out of my soul and hand it to you, I would. And the only way you're going to be able to get that is by keep coming back. So there's two things, and this old 35-year-old old timer used to say it in meetings all the time. No matter what, he said don't drink, but mine is no matter what, don't use. No matter what, don't use. No matter what, don't use. And the other one is keep coming back. The way you get time in this program is don't use and don't die. Thanks for letting me share this, Louisa. I'm so honored to be the spearhead of Louisa's commitment. She's just now tonight begun, I guess it's a 3-month commitment. The group suckered me into a commitment about, I guess it's been 3 months ago now. They had the tail end of somebody else's commitment that they needed to fill, so I was happy to do that. And then I got voted in for another 3 months. To the group and to FID, you guys don't know how much that commitment has done for me. I was having a hard time sleeping with myself at night, and this late night stuff has been really a lifesaver for me. And I love this group, and I love all of you. Y'all have a good night.